Thank you for being here. We live in a special place. New Bedford has a history like no other mid-sized American city. We have a beautiful waterfront, but our strength lies most of all in our diversity, our work ethic, and our civic pride. It is a great place, and we have a right to hold our government to high standards. Above all, it is not too much to expect that our city government will do all it can to keep our neighborhoods safe. Our citizens ought to be able to go out and walk a dog at night. They should be able to let their kids ride their bicycles without worrying about them. We should feel like this is a safe place to raise a family. But the reality is that people are feeling less safe than they have in a long time in New Bedford, and for good reason. It comes as no surprise to anyone in the city that crime is up. We read about or even hear gunshots in our neighborhoods with increased frequency. Armed robberies and assaults are much more common than they have been. And just this past weekend, there were 4 armed robberies in New Bedford. The seeds of violent crime, graffiti, litter, and unkempt properties have spread throughout our community. We need to ask ourselves, what will outside investors think when they see these things and when they read about gunshots in the newspaper? For the sake of our quality of life and our ability to attract jobs, we need to take action and take action now. As mayor, I will implement a 5-point public safety strategy to deal head-on with crime in our city. The first point is to keep federal law enforcement involved in our city and to enhance its ability to root out the most dangerous criminals in our community. Most people in federal law enforcement will tell you that a handful of individuals commit a disproportionate number of violent crimes. Our streets would be far safer if we removed these dangerous individuals. The most effective means for doing this is to ensure that they are prosecuted in federal court, where convictions are much more certain, sentences are longer, and there's no parole. We stand here directly across the street from the site of a good example of that approach. 5 years ago, that house right there at 349 Belleville Avenue was owned by an individual named Shane Swan, who moved here from Boston for the sole purpose of selling cocaine in our city. The New Bedford Police Department's narcotics unit searched the house and found a large quantity of cocaine and 4 handguns. His case was referred to the United States Attorney's Office because of his history of violence and drug dealing. As an assistant U.S. attorney, I prosecuted Shane Swan. He's now serving a 10-year sentence in Fort Dix, New Jersey. As part of his sentence, I was able to convince the judge that Shane Swan should be banished from New Bedford for 4 years after his release from that 10-year sentence. The result of this effort is that a very dangerous individual no longer threatens this neighborhood. As mayor, I will capitalize on the knowledge and contacts I gain as a federal prosecutor to keep federal law enforcement intimately involved in New Bedford's crime-fighting efforts. But to ensure a permanent federal presence in our city, long after I am mayor, it is necessary, in my view, to establish a federal district court in New Bedford. In 1948, Congress enacted a law that established federal courts in 4 Massachusetts cities: Boston, New Bedford, Worcester, and Springfield. Of those 4, only New Bedford has never had a federal district court. There are numerous cities throughout the United States, smaller than New Bedford, that have their own federal courthouses. As mayor, I will urge our congressional delegation to fund the creation of a federal court in our city. Not only will such a court ensure the long-term attention of federal law enforcement agencies, including the United States Attorney's Office, it will bring the federal judiciary closer to important federal issues that affect us directly, especially fisheries regulation and environmental cleanup. The second point of my strategy will be to create a housing task force. Our crime-fighting efforts must deal with the roots of crime, especially neighborhood blight. In recent years, the national foreclosure crisis has opened the door to opportunistic absentee landlords who've scooped up properties throughout our city. More often than not, they have failed to maintain these properties. The properties are a source of a disproportionate volume of 911 calls. The litter and deterioration of these properties adds to a sense of disorder that is a breeding ground for crime. As mayor, I will ensure that properties are maintained by establishing a code enforcement task force that will include a police officer, a firefighter, and building inspectors. Their job will be to focus the city's efforts to ensure that absentee landlords maintain their properties to the same standard they maintain their own homes. The task force will be modeled on a Brockton program headed by a single police officer and a fire department lieutenant that have resulted in the writing of $80,000 worth of tickets. I will not permit absentee landlords to wreck our neighborhoods. It is also important that we increase our police presence in neighborhoods that need it most. There is no more immediate deterrent to crime than the sight of a police officer on the beat. While cuts to the police department have understandably forced a retreat in community policing efforts, community policing ultimately is an approach to policing rather than a program, and therefore funding isn't necessarily the issue. We need to ensure that our police department is more proactive in getting to know neighborhoods and expand their work with neighborhood groups so that they are in a position to tackle small problems before they become big problems. The fourth point is about prevention. Our crime-fighting efforts ought not to be all about punishment. We need to focus on prevention, especially with teenagers. I believe strongly that we need to build up our middle school sports programs and our arts programs so that impressionable adolescents may devote their energy to constructive activities. With guidance from the right role models, athletic and artistic activities can enable kids to develop the focus, discipline, and self-esteem necessary to avoid the lure of drugs and gangs. The fifth point is about neighborhood redevelopment. We need to ensure that our neighborhoods are viable in the long run to maintain their safety. New Bedford has been the destination for many of the poor in Massachusetts and beyond who come here for the sole purpose of securing cheap housing. New Bedford can no longer afford to be the community of last resort. It is a trend that strains neighborhoods and is detrimental to the families themselves. While we welcome anyone who wishes to live in the city, state agencies and absentee landlords that channel people to New Bedford just so that they can get a place to live and without having for them a ready job imposes too big of a burden on our city. As mayor, I will insist that state agencies direct families from other regions to cities that have the resources to support them. We need to enhance the features that make neighborhoods great. That includes trees and better lighting and safer sidewalks. These things are subtle changes, but they make a big difference in the quality of life in our neighborhoods. We need more open space, we need more light, we need more green, and we need more air. We are here today in a public park that is the emblem of where we want to take New Bedford. We stand here today with a view of our water. We have a park here that is well kept and clean. There are trees growing here. It is a safe place. And we have kids of every background who are playing here on the soccer fields and on the playground. This is where we want to take this city. And as mayor, I will take steps to ensure that we have a safe place, we have other safe places to be in our city so that we can all enjoy a high quality of life. Thank you.